Hey everybody, this is Melina at scrapbookingwithme.com and Me Crafty Scrapper here on YouTube and Instagram and over on Facebook at Me Crafty Scrapper Creates. Today I am making something that is a viewer request, and it's been a long time coming. I've never tried this before, but I had a viewer ask if I would show how to sew buttons onto the exterior of your journal spine. So I got out this old book. It's a book that we have used book pages out of, and it's just really old book, and the spine here is pretty fragile, so I'm gonna add some cardstock in there just to get that a little healthier right there. And I'm going to pick out some buttons, and what I'm going to do is, after this goes in here and dries, and then I'm going to make myself a little template, and we're going to go through this spine just a little bitty, and I'm going to go probably like a zigzag back and forth and sew on some buttons onto my signature, onto my spine. Then I'm going to add a floating signature into this book. So here I've already made my floating signature, and it's going to go in like so, and all this is going to get glued down. What it's actually adhered to is going to get glued down into the book like that, and then I'll have those two signatures like this, and we'll have to cut down the paper a little bit, but I will show you, anybody that's interested in how I put these signatures together and sewed them onto this cardstock piece. I will tack that on, sped up a little bit, onto the end of the video, so y'all can stick around and watch that. I'm going to go with, since we've got such a narrow spine, I'm going to go with little narrow, little bitty buttons too. So I'm going to get a few out of here, and then go with a few other little, maybe more vintage ones. So there's 3 of those. Let's do another little dark brown one. Okay. And then maybe in all of my stash, I've got some smaller vintage buttons. Let me pull that topper off of there. I was given these buttons by someone, I think a couple of years ago. That one would be pretty. Now let's get some lighter colored ones too. So I need small ones. There's a light one. And then here's a light one. I like those. And this one. And maybe that one. So let's count. That one might be too big. Or I might can find a lighter one that I can. Ooh, look at that one. I like that. It's kind of humped up though. Let's find one that's maybe a little bit flatter. There we go. Ooh, yeah, that one's pretty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's see. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's just pick out 14 just for good measure. There's 13. And let's go with one more light one, maybe 14. Okay, so let's just try that, see if it works. And like I said, this is my very first time sewing buttons onto my spine instead of just decorating it with something else. Look at that on my big hands. I'm going to leave a couple more out just in case we need them. And let's go ahead and glue this in. I'm going to glue it in with some fabric glue, and I have just made it the length of this little outline here, so not the full book cover, but just the same height as the interior covers. And I'm just going to put liquid fabric glue all over this. And then get that glued down and in that crevice really good. Use my bone folder to make sure it's down in there really good. And then I don't think it completely has to be dry when we start stitching and poking our holes. I think we'll be okay. I think it'll be good if we have a little bit of resistance on that thread, so that way it gets into the glue also, and we make sure that it is in there good. Now, prior to doing this, I went ahead and really glued down my inside covers also. It is the original to the book, and I was just making sure that everything was in there nice and good, so this would not be coming up. Okay, and then I'm just going to center that piece up. I went over way far. There we go. That looks a little better. Does it look better on camera? Yes, it does. Usually if I can look at it head on, I can tell if I need to move it. So that's why I like that my camera up here broadcasts, in a sense, to my laptop right over there. And I can see if I'm in frame and all that good stuff. Now let's get our bone folder and really squish that down into that tiny little spine that we're working with. This is a smaller book. It's only like 7.5 inches tall. So I did have to cut down my papers for my signature. So you have to take that into account whenever you're cutting your pages and stuff for a journal. And this is an adhesive eraser. If you don't have one of these, this is like the best thing ever. I love my rubber adhesive eraser. And we carry these at scrapbookingwithme.com. So if you need one, we carry them. Alright, so that is down in there pretty good. Need to move it up just a little bit. Okay, now I want to make my little template as far as where I want to poke holes, and I don't really think that I want it to be exact. I think I'm going to do kind of like a whatever I want to do kind of thing. So I'm just going to use a white gel pen, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm on spine and not book cover, and figure out where I want to put all of these buttons. And I'm just going to use wax thread. I think I'm going to be able to see it better if I just use a plain old black pen. So here we go, yep, a lot easier. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So we'll need 16. Is that how many I've got out here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It is 16. Good. All right. Now I'm going to get my awl and my foam platform and start punching holes. Now if I wouldn't have put that chipboard or that cardstock on the other side, I wouldn't have had enough resistance to poke through. And this material that this book is covered with is very fragile. So I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of resistance going through before I started sewing on my spine. Just go through all 16, and hopefully those two big ones that I've got picked out will sew on there too. Now I might have to, since this is such a narrow spine, I might have to rethink the two big ones, but I'll just place them on there before I start sewing them in. See what it looks like. Okay, so if I start with a white one there and a white one there, maybe do a little tan one there, a little brown one there, a multicolored one there, okay, yep, I'm really going to have to think hard on that. See, that one's going to have a teeny tiny one on it. It'll still fit, but it's going to have tiny. Okay, because all I really need is like to catch two holes before I go through and come back for another one. Okay, let's do that one there, that one there, and let's see, we need two more. I don't want another clear one there. No, we need three more. Look at there. There we go. And then what do I want to put there and there? I've got two more to fill up. How about a shiny blue one, just to have something a little different, and another shiny blue one. Let's go and I like that. Just having a little bit of a different color there. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, what I'm going to do is take a picture of this so my old brain will be able to remember how I've got it. And there we go. I was wondering why I was having to go back so far. I had it on portrait. Okay, I'm going to pull that picture up, and that way I know what goes first, second, third, blah blah blah. And I'm going to use white wax thread. Use whatever color you would like if you're going to make this too. And I'm going to cut myself off plenty because I'll be going back and forth in between buttons. So I want to make sure that I have plenty of thread for that. And then I'm going to thread my needle, maybe, hopefully, in this lifetime. Okay, so I'm going to go through the inside top hole that I've punched. I don't think I'm going to need my foam platform again. And I'm going to go with my first button and go through one hole. Well, first off, I'm going to try that one more time. Go through one hole, pull that, through as far as I can. I want to leave myself a little bit of this wax thread at the top, just in case I need it. And then whichever hole I want to go in next, and then I'm going to go back through that same hole. Okay, so there is my first one on. Now if you want to, you can go back through the hole again and go through the other two holes that are on that button, but I'm good with leaving it as is. So then I'm going to go to the next hole, do the same thing. Now some of my buttons have just got 2 holes and some have got 4. If you're very particular on your buttons, then you need to figure that out first. Okay, so then you've got this string coming over, zigzagging over to this. You've got your button there. Go through your other hole and then go through that same hole in the spine again, and be sure not to split your wax thread when you come back through, because you don't want to weaken that wax thread. And then before you go to the next button, just kind of strengthen that up, pull and pull, and make sure you don't have too much slack in that thread. And then next one, go through one. This is it's going to be very cute, y'all. I had not thought of this until I saw it on someone else's, I think it was Instagram, but I went back through to my saved ones and can't find it. And then somebody in the comments of one of my videos had asked, will you do a tutorial on sewing buttons onto your spine of your journals? So here is what I've come up with. And then you will see the start of this new journal. Whenever we finish this, we're going to go ahead and sew the signature, or glue the signature in. The signature's already been sewn. So now we just need to glue our floating signature in there. And back through that same hole. Okay. And then you're just pulling tightly to make sure everything's nice and tight. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew the rest of these buttons on here, and then I'll meet you at the bottom. Alright, last button being sewn on right now. And I'm already loving how this is looking. I'm glad somebody suggested this in the comments. See, y'all, I listen to you. It just takes me a little while to get to the stuff, but I listen to you. Alright, I want to pull that as tightly as I can without breaking anything. There we go. Got it tight there. See, I even love the zigzag stuff. Of course, this is going to get covered up, but I love that. Now, what I'm going to do is go back through with my needle. I'm going to go back through this zigzag here just to reinforce that and tie a knot. There on that one. and just do it one more time just to make sure that I got plenty of reinforcement there. Okay, and then I'm going to cut my string off. I'm going to leave myself about, what is that, 4 or 5 inches there at the bottom, just in case I need it for something. I've got enough here to string another journal, and then I'm going to come up here to the top where we started, and I'm going to do the same double knot through the zigzag as I did down there on the bottom. I hope I have left myself enough enough string to do that. There we go. Just make sure that the end that's on the needle comes through. Okay, and one more time. There we go. I'm just going to leave those ends like that until I get my signature in, and then I can trim those off. Okay, now I got to make sure that the words in my signature on the book pages are upright and the same as here. And look at this, when we get that glued in there, we got to trim off the pages. Look at that spine, how pretty. And then I've got seam binding sticking out that goes along with some of the buttons. I love it. Okay, let's get the rest of this glued in and taped in. I'm going to use some 1/8 inch score tape to go on the back here. And then I'll use fabric glue for the rest, just to give me a little bit more security on the edges of this floating spine that I'm putting in there. Okay, and I'm going to pick off that backing like so. And then I'm going to put glue all over this zigzag stitching that we made here, and that's going to reinforce buttons also, just to keep them in check, keep them where they need to be. And then I got to make sure of how far out, because my floating spine is not as wide as this green cardstock, so I just need to make sure I don't go too far over. So I'm just going to go on both sides. That kind of looks like a corset. Not that I know really what that is, or what that feels like, or anything, but I have seen some old movies that the ladies wore corsets. I'm glad that we no longer are required or needed or wanted to wear those. Okay, I'm going to make sure that my seam binding is out of the way. And then I want to make sure, I'm going to stand it up and make sure that my signatures are as close to inside that spine measurement as possible. So I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit, pull it down, and I'm going to go with that placement. I'm going to open up my signatures excuse me, and use my bone folder down the middle here to get everything squished down good. Okay, now I can trim off this wax thread from underneath there. There we go. There's one. And 2, using my sticky scissors, they're not the sharpest scissors that I got, so that's why I was getting that little bit of resistance. I love that. I love how that looks already. Look at that, how pretty. Okay, now we've got these pages sticking out here that we need to trim off. I had plenty of people asking how how do you get your pages so even in your signatures? I almost had myself a mini panic attack. I thought I had sewed or glued that in upside down. I didn't know. It's the right way. Okay, but I've had a lot of people ask, how do you get your pages so even? Well, I don't usually. They're all zigzaggy or something. But what I try to do is fold my book over as tightly as I can. Make myself a pencil mark. Both sides. And then that way, when I start putting it into my trimmer, I know where I need to cut them. Because if you just looked at it like this, you'd go, oh, that's fine. It's great like it is. But when you close the book, see, now you're going to fill it up some, so they will eventually, you know, pop back a little bit. But you want them to be trimmed off enough that when you close that book, they're not sticking out like they are now. See? So I'm going to go to my trimmer and just hold my cover back. Make sure nothing else is in my trimmer but the pages. And I'm going to use that line at my pencil line as a mark and just hold it still and trim them off layer by layer until I get through that entire signature. And then sometimes you're going to get resistance and you're just going to have to go in there with a pair of scissors and trim off excess, and that is where I get the jaggedness sometimes. Oh well. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to close it up again just to make sure that my pencil line is correct, and it is. So I'm going to lay this out on my trimmer and line that pencil mark up with my trimmer. I know you can't see that really well, but believe me, it's lined up quite well. And then I'm just sloughing off what has been cut and going through. Yay! Alright, that one cut a lot easier than the front one. Okay, and then if I have any little jagged edges, I can go through there and trim those off. Now see, when you open it up, if I were to have cut this signature the way this signature looks when the book is open, these back pages would have been a lot shorter, been really too short. But see, then you close the book and they're even. And I love it when they come out even with the cover too. So this book, like I said, is 7.5 tall, and I cut all of my pages 7.25 tall, just so that I would have that 1/8 of an inch on both ends. So I love that. I love the seam binding that I've added there. And if anybody got our, let's see, what month was it? Our September AJ kit, you got a few things like this that you can use to make a journal. And then if anybody got our first Vintage Notions kit. We put out the beginning of this month, the beginning of November 2022. We gave you buttons in that. We gave you this peachy orange hand-dyed paper. And so this is just another idea that you can use to make you a journal. And we will be doing more stuff to this, maybe putting a little bit of fabric on this book cover, maybe on the back also. And we'll be adding more stuff to this journal as we go along. I'm going to let everything dry in here. I might lay another book on top of this and make sure that that spine and everything gets really, really dry and really set. And I hope you have enjoyed this little tutorial video. It's something that I had been wanting to try for a long time, and I'm glad that I had somebody suggest it. We're really not going to have that much Pac-Man mouth. If you're concerned about that, you can make a closure, but I'm good with my pages, with my journals kind of Pac-Manning out. I'm good with that. Anyway, y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. God bless. Bye, y'all. Oh, yeah, and here's how the signature come together.